Grab a seat, grab a seat. Grab a seat, get comfy. What's up, Live? How we doing? Doing good? Good. Man, I agree with what Brett said 100%. I think it is special what God is doing here in this community, and I am grateful to be here with y'all tonight. Sincerely grateful. And we're just getting started, man. Like, this summer is going to be awesome. This happens every single Wednesday night, and we're going to be doing it. We have 3 weeks till beach retreat. Let's go. That's awesome. But we're going to pick right back up where we left off when we get back from beach retreat. And even tonight, God has something amazing in store for us. So, I need you guys to lock in with me for the next 20 to 25 minutes. 23 minutes and 39 seconds, about to be precise with you. Man, I believe that God has something to say to you. I really believe that. I really believe that God has something to say to you tonight, okay? Not me, not anybody else, but God has something to communicate with you. So, I need you to focus. And if you're not focused, I will call you out. If you are not focused, I will call you out. Okay? I just want to make that clear. Y'all be warned. Because I believe that God has something to say. And why would we want to get in somebody else's way of hearing what God has to say to them, right? I'm Kadin. I work in the high school ministry up here. And when I was in college, I got another story for you guys about my life. When I was in college, my coworker, her and all of her friends had this house that they were renting, right? And they needed somebody to help them because they had a bamboo forest that popped up in their backyard. A random bamboo forest popped up. And let me tell you something about a bamboo tree. It's very hard to get rid of bamboo after it starts growing in your backyard. It's very difficult to get rid of that. And I know from experience, because I tried to get rid of it, and you can cut it down, you can cut it all the way at the bottom, you can spray chemicals all over it, you can do all these different things, and it will grow back every time. I know, trust me. And we researched this because we're trying to get rid of it, and it's kind of a nuisance in their backyard, and they don't want to deal with this. And I was like, all right, well, I figured out, I researched it. You have to literally cut bamboo all the way at the bottom of the root. If you leave any of the root, that bamboo tree will come back, guaranteed. So I was like, all right, here's the plan. We're gonna dig these out by the root all the way at the bottom. We're gonna till up the ground. We're gonna get rid of all of the roots of this bamboo tree so it doesn't come back. And once we did that, finally, after attempt after attempt after attempt to get rid of these dang bamboo trees, finally, they went away when we cut the whole entire root out of the ground. And that's the only way. If you ever have to get rid of a bamboo tree, that's the way to do it. Now you know. But why do I say that to you? Because that's the same way that it works in our spiritual lives. And we make a mess, we have things pop up, and we're like, this is not good for my life. And what do? We try to cut it, we try to cover it up with other things. We try to do all these different methods to get rid of these sins and these messes that we make in our lives, and we know that it's bad for us, and we keep trying to get rid of it, and it keeps coming back, right? Everybody in this room is probably thinking of something. It's like, man, if I could just get rid of this in my life, my relationship with God might be a little better. And let me tell you something. It's not going to go away until you cut out the whole root of the problem. So I want to get to the root of what sin is about tonight. What is the root of sin? Actually, a better question might be, to start out with, what is evil? Just what is evil? Because evil is what leads us to sin, right? And what is evil? What is the root of all sin? And I'm going to take us to Jeremiah chapter 2 to kind of get an idea of what did Jeremiah think. And let me just lay this out for you. Jeremiah is a prophet of God. God said that I have called you, Jeremiah, to go and speak on my behalf to my people. That's what a prophet is. So he picks out this man, he's named Jeremiah, and hey, right over here, you guys, this row right here, y'all got me? Lock in, because I don't want you to miss this, all right? Thank you. Jeremiah is a prophet to God's people. And he's going to go and speak on his behalf. And God's going to give us a clue through what Jeremiah says about what could evil be. What is the root of all evil? This is what Jeremiah says, right? We got to get to the root of the problem. Jeremiah 2:13. He says this, "Be appalled, O heavens, at this. Be shocked. Be utterly desolate, declares the Lord." Can you sense the seriousness of this problem? That he's trying to say, hey, be shocked at what you're about to hear. Be shocked at this. Be shocked at this in your life. Because this is in your life. This is in the people around you's life. This is in my life. This is in the world that we live in. And God says, be appalled at this. And what does he say? Be appalled at the fact that my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living water, and they have hewed out cisterns for themselves, broken cisterns that hold no water. Be appalled. Why would you do that? Why would I do that? Why would we have a fountain of living water that would quench our thirst forever? And you know what he says? Here's what he says evil is. Here's what he said the essence of evil is. You know what God says? God put you in everybody's heart at birth. He said he has put eternity in all of our hearts. Romans 1 would tell you that he has declared his creation to us. We can all see God. We all inherently, deep down within us, if sin weren't there, we would all know for sure that God is real and that God has a plan for our life and God is our heavenly Father. But sin comes in and it distorts our view. And he says, this is what he says evil is. Evil is tasting living water. Tasting who God is. Tasting it. Getting on your tongue. And then saying, it's not, you know, I'll go over here and look for other water to drink. I'll dig and I'll dig and I'll dig and I'll dig into the world until I find another spring of water that I can drink from. And that's what we do as human beings, and it's appalling. He says, you have given up me. And you go and you search and you search and you search for other water to drink. And what do you end up finding? You find broken cisterns that leak water all day long. And you're never satisfied. You always want more and more and more. And you're never satisfied. You're never fulfilled because you don't come back to the living water, the source of life that is only found in God. And the more you look for other places, and the more that you keep running to these broken cisterns, and by the way, what a cistern is a piece of pottery. It's like a glass, basically, that holds water. And the more that you run to that over and over again, that they're cracked and they're leaking water, the more you're going to be thirsty, and the more you're going to be left wanting, and the more you're going to be left unsatisfied. And this cycle will repeat your entire life, all the way until your death. Some people never figure it out, and it goes through eternity. And they're thirsty for eternity, and they're never satisfied. Is that what you want? That's not what I want. I want to go to the source of living water so that God can satisfy me. So I'm going to dive into both of these things. Jeremiah says, my people, the people that I love, have committed two evils. Number one, they've forsaken me, the fountain of living water. Number two, they have continued in that evil by seeking other things in the place of me. And we're going to look at both of those. Point number one, if you're taking notes, the title of my lesson is Broken Cisterns. And the point number one is evil begins with forsaking God. All evil begins by you walking away from your Creator. That's a fact. And when you do that, when you taste the living water and you consciously decide in your mind that I could do better, I'm going to look for it somewhere else, that will lead to a multitude, thousands of other evils. That will lead to cheating, stealing, murder, strife, wanting, coveting, comparing yourself to other people, searching for all these things. It will lead to all those things, and it begins right here. This is where it begins. Turning away from the living water and looking at it in the world. That is where it begins. Okay? If you remember the 10 Commandments, what is the first commandment that Moses gives them? He says, have no other gods before me. Put nothing in the place of me. Put nothing in the place of me. Keep me at the top of your priority, at the top of what you worship, at the top of what you love, and the rest of your life will fall in place. This is the first commandment that God gave his people. And if you were with us a few weeks ago, you remember that I talked about what Jesus said was the greatest commandment, which he said the exact same thing. The Old Testament and the New Testament agree with each other. Jesus says, hey, the greatest thing that you can do in your life is to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind. And this all sounds very simple, but guess what we're good at doing as people? We're good at forgetting the most simple thing in life, which is this. That's why I'm trying to get this across to you tonight. You got to keep this straight. You've got to keep this straight. So the Old Testament, the New Testament, they agree. This is the most important thing. Stay grounded at the fountain of living water for satisfaction. And here's another thing that I want to explain to you. So this is what God commands us, how our attitude towards him should be. How about what God says about his attitude towards us is? Why should we even love God in the first place? Man, we're going to get spiritual up in here. All right. All right. I don't think you guys want me to start singing for you. I'll leave that to Brett for after the message. But I could start singing. I don't know if it's going to be good. No. Stop. But hey, listen. This is what God says should be our attitude towards him. What does God say his attitude towards us is? I'm just going to give you a couple examples here. This is what God says about you guys. Man. God wants us to worship tonight. Should I just call you back up here, Brett? I don't know what's going on. Is the Lord leading that? Okay, he says no, so we'll try to continue on here. Okay. Lock in with me for a second. I know. It's distracting. Just lock in with me. Here's what God says his attitude towards us is, okay? In Deuteronomy 31, he says, do not fear or be in dread, for I, the Lord your God, am with you. I will never forsake you or leave you. So he says the opposite. You've forsaken me. I will never forsake you or leave you. Listen to this. Joshua 1, just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. Hebrews 13, I will never leave you or forsake you. 1 Chronicles 28, I will never leave you or forsake you. 1 Kings 8, I will never leave you or forsake you. Matthew 28, I will never leave you or forsake you. Romans 8, I will never leave you or forsake you. Psalm 94, I will never leave you or forsake you. I wonder if God will ever leave us or forsake us. According to his word, no. These are just a few examples. I could go on and on and on. That's only using the exact phrase that we see in Jeremiah 2. That God would never leave us or forsake you. God says this. God says, even when you forsake me and run to these other things and replace and to replace me, I will never leave you or forsake you. I will always be there for you to come back home. In fact, listen to this. Right before he says this in Jeremiah 2, he says this in verses 2 and 3. Listen to what he says about his people, his chosen people. By the way, hopefully that's a lot of us in this room right now. This is what he says about us. I remember the devotion of your youth, your love as a bride, how you followed me in the wilderness in a land not sown. Israel was holy to the Lord, the first fruits of his harvest. So he says, hey, I remember that you were devoted to me, you loved me, and you forgot. Somewhere along the way, you forgot. You know what's so convicting to me as I prepared for this message? From the time, so Jeremiah is a prophet, right? He's speaking to people of God. From the time that they went into exile, so from the time they went for the wilderness, what he's talking about here, God brought them up out of Egypt from the wilderness, to the time that they went into exile into Babylon, which is he's prophesying towards that. That period of time was 800 years. And God's saying, how could you forget me over 800 years? And you know what I thought of? I can forget what God did for me 8 hours ago. I can forget the blessings that God has brought into my life, the good things that he gave to me in one day. And these people, it was 800 years. And he says, how could you have abandoned me? But I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that we could abandon God in 8 days. And the fact is that we need to rest in what God has already given us and stop chasing and wanting more and more and more from this world. And just be satisfied in what God is doing in your life. Do you relate to Israel? Do you relate to Israel? Maybe some of you in this room, that's so true. I remember when you devoted. I remember when you followed me. And I remember your love for me. And somewhere along the way, you started to run after other things in place of me. So that's where it begins. It begins by forsaking God. But let's go on. It continues in seeking other things in the place of God. And so, my people have forsaken me and then hewed out cisterns for themselves, broken and cracked cisterns that hold no water at all, that leave us no satisfaction. Leave us no satisfaction. What does sin and temptation do to you? What does it really do to you? Think about it in your life. We've all sinned in this room. And it all sounds great. And the fruit looks shiny, right? Think about the Garden of Evil. Oh, it'll give me so much knowledge. This will satisfy me. And Satan kind of gets in your head like, oh man, you need that. You really, really want that. And then you get it. And does it ever really fulfill what you were hoping for it to do? Or is sin just a thief of your joy to leave you unsatisfied, unfulfilled? Every time. Every time. Don't let the enemy win over and over and over. Jesus says, I am the living water. I will satisfy you. Stop running to the broken cisterns that will leave your mouth parched every day, over and over. And we all get in these cycles. I'm just going to live and thirst all the time. That's not what God has for you. That's not what God has for you. What is the cistern that you're running to? What is the broken thing that you're just digging for all the time? I gotta have it. What is it? Is it pornography? Yeah, I know I got some of your attention. Is it lust? Is it seeking social media likes and followers and comparing your account to all your friends' accounts and oh, she got more likes than me? Is it video games that you're addicted to, that you go home from school every day and you spend 6 hours, the next thing you know, you wasted your whole day, you have no interaction with other people? But man, that video game, that would satisfy me, but it never does. Is it seeking affirmation from the opposite sex? where all of your self-worth is put in what that boy or that girl thinks about you, or what that group of people think about you, or the same sex, what your group of friends think about you, and you're constantly chasing a broken cistern, and somebody disappoints you in a relationship, and bang, you're disappointed again and again and again and again and again, and that'll happen your whole life. That'll happen your whole life. That's not where your worth is at. God says you're precious. You're valued. Do you get that from Him? Do you get that satisfaction from Him? Listen to what this says. James would say it this way. Each person's tempted when they're lured by their own desires, so their own wanting, their own chasing these cisterns. I want from this world, and once I get it, I want more, and then once I get that, I want more, and then once I get that, I want more, and all the time, my desires are controlling my life, and then once desire conceives, he says it gives birth to sin, and then once sin conceives, it gives birth to death. So you're chasing death is what you're doing. You're inviting it into your life. I want death is what happens when you chase your temptations and you get into this destructive mindset that the enemy gets in there, and you got to break the cycle. But listen to what David says here. David would say in Psalm 23, he says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, for He makes me lie down in green pastures." So what's the difference between what James says some people do and what David would say some people do? James would say some people are in the mindset of, oh, my desires control my life, and I just want this, and I got to chase this and chase this and chase this. And those people are never satisfied, ever. Their whole life. They might look like they are, but they're not. But then David would say, if you can embrace this mindset, David would say, no, the Lord is my shepherd, and He will satisfy me. He will be good to me. He will make me lie down in green pastures if I just trust in Him and not chase the world every day. If I can just rest in the Lord and embrace His love for satisfaction, then I can lay down in the green pastures that God would have for me. So which mindset are you going to embrace tonight? Are you going to keep chasing what you're chasing? Are you going to trust and rest and wait for God and all the good things that God will have for you? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to quench your thirst with? What are you going to quench your thirst with? I'm going to leave you guys with this. Lock in just a couple more minutes here. I'm going to leave you with this. You say, okay, hey, Kadin, that's great. I would love to stop wanting and chasing after all this mess that leaves me disappointed. I would love to do that. I don't even know how to do that. I am stuck in a rut. Here's my challenge for you, okay? Here is my challenge for you. You're not going to overcome these temptations and sin by your own willpower. Some of us, and I have been here. I promise you I've been here. Where I just say, I know this is wrong for me. I know God has better for me, and I'm just going to, if I could just try hard enough, I'm just going to fight against it, and I'm just going to fight against it, and I'll get there. That's not the attitude that frees you. You're not strong enough.